Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. Over the past few days, new mothers across the country, especially in Bihar, have been alarmed and they are in a state of panic based on media reports that uranium traces were found in breast milk samples. So, in this short video, let's address this topic head on, bring out the facts from this study by looking deep into the details, understand what is uranium contamination and its health impact, and let's answer the big question: should lactating women stop breastfeeding their infants? So, the context of this topic is a study which was conducted by a team of researchers from India, which was published in the popular scientific journal Nature. This study selected few lactating women across 6 districts in Bihar and collected breast milk samples. Based on the study conducted, uranium traces were observed in some of the milk samples, and this is where the concern comes up. Traces of uranium 238 has been found in the breast milk of lactating mothers. But the big question is, should this lead to panic among the general population? So before we address this topic, let's take up a practice question for your prelims. I want you to read the statements carefully on your screen. And if you watch this video for the next 10 minutes, I'm sure you will be able to answer this question. So take this up seriously and provide your answers in the comment section below. Consider the following statements. Low traces of uranium 238 contamination in drinking water is quite common around the world. The WHO has set a provisional guideline limit of 30 microgram per liter of uranium in drinking water. Even a minor exposure to uranium 238 will cause cancer and developmental issues. You need to check which of the statements is or are correct. So please let me know the right answer in the comments by watching the full video. Now, before we start, I have an important announcement. Unacademy is providing a 25% off on all our IAS courses, and I'm told this offer ends tonight. So, those interested, please avail the offer by clicking on the link provided in the description and enter the code IAS English in order to avail the 25% discount on all our IAS courses. Now, let's get into our discussion. Let's talk about the extent of contamination of uranium that has been reported in breast milk samples. As I told you, the study focused on 6 districts in Bihar, and several women were sampled in this exercise. So, based on the study that was carried out, uranium traces in the range of 3.61 microgram per liter to 5.25 microgram per liter has been found. And this is what has triggered the panic. It has even led to a lot of rumors circulating on social media by so called influencers. This is where the media outlets have also been very irresponsible in reporting this particular study because none of them bothered to go into the details of the report. None of them bothered to research about uranium contamination. What is the source? What is the acceptable permissible limits? So let me provide you those details in a clear breakdown. The source of this uranium contamination is clearly groundwater, the water which is consumed for drinking purposes is seen as the primary source of this uranium contamination, which is found in the breast milk samples. In 2018, a study was conducted by Baba Atomic Research Center, the BARC, in collaboration with the Central Groundwater Board. And in this study, uranium contamination in groundwater table was found in 79 districts spread across 16 states. As per latest data, this contamination has increased to 151 districts spread across 18 states in the country. The most affected states are Bihar, UP, parts of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, parts of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, parts of Karnataka as well. So, several states in the country report traces of uranium in the groundwater table. Now, how is this possible? Where is this uranium coming from? How dangerous is it? See, the uranium, which is naturally occurring, this natural isotope, uranium 238, it tends to leach into the environment. It can be found in soil, it can be found in water, in rock samples, it will of course reach the water bodies and the groundwater table as well. Now, what does the WHO tell us about the consumption of such food or water which might be contaminated with traces of uranium? Now, WHO does not have a permissible limit or a benchmark for uranium concentration in breast milk. So, for this, there is no threshold available for us. But when you look at the threshold set by WHO for drinking water, it is 30 microgram per liter. This is the WHO limit that has been set. So, any uranium presence within this threshold is considered as safe and it is unlikely to have an adverse impact on human health. Now, this said, let's understand the risk posed by uranium contamination. What is the real threat over here? See, as I told you, uranium 238 is a naturally occurring uranium isotope. It is commonly found in the environment. According to the US Environmental Protection Agency, uranium 238 can be found across different ecosystems and terrains. It can be found in soil, in rock samples, in water bodies, groundwater table, in the air as well. But however, any external exposure to uranium 238 is not harmful because it's not highly radioactive. Uranium 238, this particular common isotope of uranium, is very weakly radioactive. It's a dense, heavy metal, but it's not highly radioactive. It's weakly radioactive. So your skin tissue is enough to protect the alpha particles from breaching into the tissue. So when you are exposed to uranium 238 externally, meaning when it is present in the environment, you're exposed to it, it is unlikely to cause any harm in the short term because your skin can block out the alpha particles. But however, when it is ingested, that is when it can become quite dangerous. But this also depends on the level of exposure, the duration of exposure, and the concentration of uranium in the food or water that you're ingesting. So, uranium can be found in the air, in food chains, and in water. So, when you consume them within acceptable limits for a short duration, it is totally fine. But in higher concentration, if there is long term chronic exposure, and if the concentration levels are higher, then yes, there is a possibility of a health risk which is associated with it. But please note, presence of natural uranium is very common across the world. It's not just a problem seen in Indian states. It is seen across the world according to the US Environmental Protection Agency. So that is why there is no need for panic as such. There is no need to stop breastfeeding infants. But of course, you should be mindful of the health impact. What would be the health consequences? See, in case of adults, when you ingest uranium 238, if there is long term exposure and if the concentration level is high, then yes, there might be some problems, but not because of its radioactivity. Because as we understood, uranium 238, which is a natural isotope, it is not highly radioactive, it is weakly radioactive. But the concern comes because of its chemical toxicity to internal organs of the body, especially on your kidney, on your bones, on the gastrointestinal tract, even to your liver, and as well as on reproductive health, neural development, and even sexual reproductive health. So, this is where the concern lies. But if there is long term exposure in higher concentration, it can affect the ability of the kidney to filter out the toxins because it will produce an excess protein. It can affect the skeletal structure and the bone strength, leading to frequent fractures because uranium can bind to the bone with calcium, leading to the weakening of the bone and leading to bone loss. It can cause digestive issues, leading to severe abdominal pain. It can affect the development of the neurons and the neural pathways, which can even have an impact on your memory, on your IQ, on your mental health, etc. Then especially for expecting women, pregnant women, there is a risk of passing down the uranium traces to the infant. And yes, there is a risk indeed when it comes to breastfeeding the child. But again, this is only in case of long term exposure and the concentration being very, very high beyond the permissible levels. And finally, there might be a possible cancer risk, but this again is not really proven. It is a very limited risk of cancer. The bigger concern is about the chemical toxicity because naturally occurring uranium is a heavy metal. What is the impact on infants? Let's say infants consume such breast milk, which has some concentration of uranium 238. Studies have shown if there is long term exposure, again in slightly higher concentration, then there might be an impairment of kidney functions. There might be an impact on the mental health and the developmental health of the child, resulting in uh, impact on cognitive development, low IQ, and developmental of neural pathways. But this is again only in the case of long term exposure in higher concentrations. Now, let me quote Dr. Ashok Sharma of AIMS Delhi, who was part of this scientific study. This researcher has clearly pointed out that there is unnecessary panic being triggered in the country by irresponsible reporting of the media and rumors circulating on social media. The researcher has asked people to fall prey for these rumors and this misinformation. Because, as I said, the content of contamination, the extent which has been discovered, is in the range of 3 to 5 micrograms per liter. Whereas WHO standard for uranium traces in drinking water is up to 30 micrograms per liter. So there may not be a standard for uranium concentration in breast milk, but there is a WHO standard, a safe limit as far as drinking water is concerned. So the current concentration found in breast milk samples is very, very low, many times lower than the WHO standard. So there is no need to panic, absolutely. Instead, the bigger concern is about the misinformation because the panic is leading pregnant women, lactating women to get averse with regard to breastfeeding and stop breastfeeding the infants. And this is a bigger danger. As you know, breastfeeding is highly recommended by WHO. It is very critical for infant health, for overall infant development with regard to their immunity, their physical growth, their mental development as well, their cognitive development as well. This is very crucial to prevent malnutrition, to protect infants from various diseases by improving their immunity, and as well as to reduce infant mortality rate. So the fear now is that the misinformation might deter women from breastfeeding the infants, which could have a disastrous outcome. That's why it's important to spread the right message. It's important to look at the details of the study and report very responsibly. Now, what can be done going forward? See, this can't be taken lightly. You can't be complacent. There should be periodic groundwater studies that are conducted to look for traces of different contaminants, not just uranium, even arsenic contamination or heavy metal contamination like mercury. They all pose a risk for adults and infants as well. So there has to be periodic studies conducted. And the sample size should be much larger. In this particular study, only 6 districts were chosen in Bihar, like Nalanda and few other districts, and only few women were chosen in a small sample size, and only their breast milk was tested. So you need a bigger sample size with better profiling and consider the environmental factors influencing the ingestion of uranium into the food chain and into the water. And you also need to expand the study across the country. Right now, the study has been limited to few districts in the state of Bihar. So you need countrywide studies because, as I said, 18 states, 151 districts report concerning levels of uranium contamination in groundwater. But as I said, there's nothing to be alarmed about. This is very common across the world. But if the concentration level increases and if there is long term exposure, that is where the concern should start. So, otherwise, it is absolutely safe to breastfeed infants. And please be responsible citizens and spread this message and counter the misinformation, the rumors which are spreading. I hope this session helps you in taking up this initiative. And if you have understood the topic, like the session, please press the like button, share the video with other aspirants, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.